Here, I'm gonna share the link here so that people can join in if they would like. So for the folks that are on the call or listening, I just sent a group chat link to open up to the presentation that we're going to be walking through, just so that, just in case for some reason the screen share doesn't seem to be working, um, that you guys can still see it. So we'll go ahead and get started. It's quarter after our start time, so we'll go ahead and get started. The point of this call is just to catch everybody up and get a sense of what we've been working on in the last month since we connected last. The overall agenda for today's call, some people recently found out about the Cirque du Soleil show Curious, and then a series of updates on what we've been up to. Just to start off, first and foremost, yes, Cirque du Soleil does have a show called Curious, Cabinet of Curiosities. We do know about that. Katya looks surprised. Um, it launched in April of last year in Canada. Its debut in the United States was in, I believe, late November of this year in San Francisco. Yes, it's a similar theme. It's a valid consideration in our production cycle, but our perception is that it's pretty different from what we're working on, and it's a valid consideration, and we will take specific aims to not make it appear or seem like we are in any way related or correlated with them. But again, it's far enough apart that I'm not super concerned about that, as long as we're aware of it and making clear that it's different. And I think as we go through this conversation and see how our promotional materials stack up against theirs, how our costumes stack up against theirs, how our storyline stacks up against theirs, how our aesthetic focus stacks up against theirs, I mean, it's all different. Every last bit of it is different, and I'm excited to see the Cirque show and how they interpreted that theme, but just the words is pretty much as close as it gets to what we're working on. So yes, a consideration. No, I don't think a huge concern. But of course, that's just one person's opinion. We're getting together with the core team this weekend to sift through what the implications are for us, and any thoughts or perspectives, concerns that you guys have, please send them our way, and we will absolutely take them into consideration. Again, it's different. It's very different from what we're trying to accomplish, and so I'm not super concerned, but we should definitely have a conversation about what this means for us and how that impacts our strategy. Moving on, Eric, if I unmute you, can you jump in here, or can you unmute yourself? I don't think I can unmute you.
Yeah. Okay, short film. We have some interesting developments on this end. We're facing right now some interesting challenges after reviewing the footage that has been delivered to us by the film company that we hired for doing the shoot of the flash mob. We've discovered, unfortunately, that there's like the vast majority of that footage that is going to be very difficult to use for several reasons. Some of them being like, all sort of things like, they didn't check, for instance, their cameras, and like one of their main cameras that was shooting like the main action was defect, and the footage they actually recorded it ended up being distorted. Like the whole thing on that camera is completely unusable. There's like distortion all over the place. It's jumpy. It is pixelated, and things like that. as well as other issues that we have identified after reviewing the footage. So it is disappointing. It is definitely a challenge that we need to face right now. We are currently in with talking with the studio. We have sent some emails. We're going to do some follow up, see how we can actually address that situation. We are not we haven't not like set like a set in stone plan of how we're going to be um, adjusting that part of our story and how we're going to fill the gaps on the missing footage yet. But on the bright side, the rest of the footage that has been shot in studio is actually very good. And the editing is moving forward. But unfortunately, it's going to be difficult for us to really move forward completely with that short until we have the extra footage that is necessary to fill up, well, like the main second card. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the update I've got right now. Which this means that it's gonna slow down a little bit of production on that end. Music will have to stand by a little bit until we know further more about this, as well as effects. Because until we have the footage that we need, it's going to be difficult for us to have like a good idea of timing and also like everything that needs to be filled up and where. So it creates some delays there. Our expected timeline when it comes to actually addressing this, um, since our current objective is definitely to focus on the upcoming dinner show, it is very likely that we're gonna readdress all these issues and basically face those challenges after that we tackle the upcoming show. So until then, sit tight. It's put on the shelf. It's not forgotten. We're not giving up on this project. Quite the opposite, actually. We're just basically reassessing our forces and resources, and we're going to be deciding of the best strategy that's going to be necessary that we can do to approach this, and we'll keep you posted on the developments.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that um, we put a lot of man hours against editing it. Scott did a fantastic job trying to get something out of what we had. It sucks that we have run into this production snag. We will not be able to use as much of the footage for promotion for the dinner show as we would have hoped, but there is some stuff that we can salvage and use for that. And we were hoping to release the large short, the entire short film before the show, but at this point, that's most likely going to be after the show, just because of the way things shook out with the unusable film. So that's that on the short film. With regards to the story, uh, the story is complete. The big picture of the story is that we're focusing on the curator, and the curator is an academic, intellectual character that was trying to unravel and understand why the shifts were happening when they stumbled on the power of the curiosities, at which point the curator was tapped by the keeper and the messenger to save the world. It's very closely, our story arc very closely maps to the story. Uh, it very closely maps to the Hero of a Thousand Faces, John Campbell's kind of or Joseph Campbell's big picture, how epic stories are created. And the main characters in this upcoming show are the curator, which is currently written as a female, the curator sidekick, which is currently written as a clown type character for comedic relief. Hey Tara, the keeper and messenger, a handful of curiosities, a handful of gillies, and of course greeters, servers, and the audience. Um, The next areas of focus for the story include, we're not going to have very much dialogue, but there will be some. Probably only the keeper, curator, and messenger will speak, not the sidekick, curiosities, or gillies. Or if they do, they might have just one line. But there will be very little dialogue. It will be mostly an action-driven show. But we do need to port the story arc as it has into a production script with enter, exit, what type of acts will be there. And we also, for the website and beyond, need to write up some backstory and exposition on each of the characters and how they got to where they are in time and what happens around the moments that we'll be experiencing in the show. So that's kind of bigger picture, but specifically production script is the next big kind of focus with the dialogue from that perspective. The show, we're currently targeting the last weekend of March or the first weekend of April, depending on some venues. We've narrowed down the venues to 4 potential locations. We're talking with each of them about their availability, as well as the timelines that we need before the show for tech rehearsals and all of that jazz, so that we can lock in the venue within this coming week. Of course, that rolls into a whole bevy of considerations regarding licenses, permits, and unlocks the set and lighting and projections departments to start working on their pieces once they have full documentation of the space that we'll be occupying and some pictures and video or whatever to understand what that looks like. And then we'll also be working on identifying the performers within the next couple of weeks, which, of course, cascades into contracts and thinking about how we will move those bodies through space and what that will look like, as well as rehearsals for each of the respective teams. And then separately and kind of in parallel, each team that is going to be involved in the next show will be thinking about sketches and budgets, so that we can roll all that up and have a perspective on how each of the various teams stack up against each other. And the hope is, in this go-around, to have the time and opportunity to really think through these sketches and budgets and have the conversation with the team leads to make sure that everything that we're shooting for is realistic, both in terms of time to implement as well as dollars to implement. On that note, what have we done so far? So here's the accounting for what the circus has spent to date. A lot of it falls on marketing, props, venue, and the video. Unfortunately, the video we were hoping to see results from by now-ish, but we're not, so we talked about that. That's the green screen and the video. Props are costs that will be amortized over time, and marketing is mostly website. So, yes, it's a big number. If we stop now, that would certainly be disappointing, but the point is that everything, or the majority of the things that we have spent big chunks of change on are things that will be the foundations of our success throughout this coming year. Just a quick procedural note. We've put together, it was more hard work than it should have been and could have been to put together the accounting. So to help streamline that process moving forward, we've created a standard expense report. That link will take you there. I don't believe it's editable. I think I made it so that you guys have to save a local copy, and fill it out. But yeah, essentially the idea is we want to make it easier for everybody. Just to quickly walk folks through how it works, I geeked out just a little bit and made each box that has a drop-down triangle be something that helps you submit. So, here you can drop down and select which type of expense it is. And when you do, it asks you automatically what type of input. So the pink or the purplish columns are calculated columns where you don't need to put stuff. It figures it out based on your previous entries. And all of the white columns are the ones where your input and notes are needed. So that's kind of this gray stuff is just examples. Obviously, when you fill it out, you'll be entering your own pieces. So that should make it just a little bit easier for everybody who has expenses beyond just what we negotiate over contracts, and it'll make the accounting a lot easier for the team. So that's that. Oops. Um, Looking forward to the next show. In terms of the budget for the next show, the hope, the expectation is to break even on the next show. And for just being realistic and practical, break even we're trying to calculate at somewhere around 2/3 capacity to make it realistic, and that would be around $14,000. So the thought process is to shoot for that, expect that we'll be able to fill 2/3 of the seats, and obviously keep track of ticket sales as they're progressing to scale the vision accordingly with what we bring in. Um, you know, I would love for us to sell out everything, and I'm happy to reinvest the differential back into a better experience for the audience and a better pay for the people that are contributing their time and efforts to making this a fantastic show. I don't necessarily need to walk away from this trying to pay off some of the previous expenses, but I would like for this show to break even internally. So the best case scenario is that we're not throwing tons of more cash at this, but that it can start to sustain itself on its own a little bit. To help us do that, we've got the website that's well on its way. If you click on that link, it'll take you to the Arts Dev server. This is the opening page with the firefly effect of the different fireflies flying around. And then as you get lower, you'll see that our main points of focus are the upcoming event, our story, our team, and then story is the global story arc, innates our specific characters, and a relatively standard contact form. You can click through and poke around. This will change pretty reasonably. A lot of these elements will continue to be here, and some of them will go away. So some things that are here to stay, the background, the purple background, and having the idea there being of a table with some of our tarot cards splayed out across the table. We'll probably have fewer tarot cards to make it a little less visually stimulating. And whenever a tarot card is flipped face up, as you can see here, it will be an ancillary navigation that will take you to otherwise hidden or unexpected places on the website to pique this concept of digging around and exploring and curiosity. Some of the cards will have actual tarot cards in the tarot deck that we are developing, and these will ultimately link through to our tarot deck, which will be organized online and which will feature each card that we have and the story and how it maps the story of that card within the tarot deck, as well as the story of this tarot card within the story arc of Cirko Telescoptico. And then separately, certain cards will be face up, and they will include these character images, and those will click through to the innates section to feature that character, as well as a little bit of story and flavor text about them. These sections, tickets, will become a ticket icon in the menu up here, as well as an above the fold ticket graphic that will click through to the buy a ticket page. And this sign up for the newsletter will sit between these cards and the bottom footer. So, definitely poke around. Let us know what you think. Some of the copy is updated. Some of the copy is yet to be updated, as you'll see. But it's definitely coming along. And as you have thoughts or perspectives, input, we'd love to hear what you have to say. The biggest thing that we definitely need input from everybody on is uh, a bio picture and bio text. It's getting close to the point where we're going to be featuring contributors to the Cirko team, and we're asking for a 300 by 300 pixel image of your face and or you, some way, shape, or form, and a couple of sentences that you would be comfortable sharing with the world. Now, not, if you guys don't want to be featured on the Circo page, then of course we understand, but we would love to include everybody that's contributed and to link through to various, if you have an individual page or a Facebook page or something where we can kind of help redirect traffic to you and feature you as a contributor, then we definitely want to do that. So please, as you're thinking about your action items and what you can do, everybody within the next couple of days can pull an image and write a couple of sentences to send our way so that we can plug it in. The expectation for the website is to launch in the first weekend of February, and I'm really, really digging in hard to try and hit that February 1st, February 2nd timeline. Even if we can't process all of the ticket sales 100%, it's getting very close to the time when we can share with the world imagery and story and aesthetic of what we've been working on. So that's the hope, that's the expectation, and that's why getting bios and bio copy within the next bio images and bio copy within the next couple of days would be really fantastic. In terms of our marketing and how we're thinking about filling our seats, there are three global categories of individuals that I've thrown together some, kind of sample personas for, just to help start the conversation. And this is very much intended to start the conversation, not be a conclusive answer. But just to start the conversation, there are three target groups, just kind of global groups that I think we should target. The baby boomer skilled professional, that has the income and the arts bent to support going to, a not cheap artistic experience. They might not be familiar with interactive art or immersive theater as such, but they have been to plenty of theatrical shows, whether it's concerts or musicals or theater or whatever it may be, and they consider that a core part of their leisure portfolio, so to speak. The next target audience is the young professional, someone who might not necessarily spend very much time in a theater or in the arts per se, but works hard, plays hard, and is kind of getting tired of the standard go-tos of their leisurely leisure time, and they have the disposable income, but they might not necessarily have a bunch of time, so they want an experience that's truly unexpected, and they're willing to pay that premium for that experience because they can't get it anywhere else. It's a type of experience that they might be likely to bring a date to show off how kind of interesting they are. And they may have heard of Burning Man or Burners or something, maybe, but has a very vague perspective on that. And then, certainly one of the people that will be drawn to this is your typical burner, festy type, youngish character that may not necessarily have the dollars, but will scrounge it together because that's where their crew goes, and they go where their crew goes. Again, this is meant to start the conversation and help ground us when we're thinking about content and copy for emails and social media and otherwise. If there are other target audiences or other groups or other types of individuals that you think we should target from an audience perspective, please reach out, let me know. I think the core considerations, at least in my mind, are do they have the income or the disposable income to afford the premium experience that we'll be providing, as well as what is their relationship to immersive, interactive arts, because not everybody is primed for that concept and that type of experience, and that's part of the consideration of how we communicate with them. So if there are other groups or other individuals, please let me know. But this is our first stab at our first thought process around types of individuals that we'd like to see in our seats. With regards to communicating, once the website is launched, it's going to trigger a series of communication flows, both for individuals that haven't signed up haven't paid tickets for the show, but have signed up for our email newsletter, as well as people on Facebook that have liked us, or Instagram, as well as people that have signed up for the show and purchased tickets. And we'll have to think about all of that. But generally speaking, the first week after we launch the website, we want to announce the website. We want to announce the show. I know a lot of people have commented on, wanting to share what they're working on with friends and family, but not really having anywhere to point people to. Well, this will be our opportunity to point our friends and family to some more exposition and explanation, and to really start digging into these concepts of immersive and interactive, because ultimately I think immersive interactive are what set us apart from traditional shows, both theatrical as well as circus type shows. And that's a big part of what Circo Telescopico is cultivating within our troupe, is this idea of a completely interactive, immersive experience. So starting to develop information, content, explanation, both in story and outside of, and plain English, will help set the stage and the tone for what we're creating. Then beyond that, moving into week 2, we start to introduce some characters, we start to introduce some story elements, we start to really pump the ticket sales, we elaborate on what some of these core concepts mean, and start announcing some of the acts that we are locking into our show. Beyond that, I want to revisit the pockets and our Cirko post, the internal mail, so to speak, introduce some more characters, some more of the assets that we've been developing, and start to talk about the menu and ideas for menu items, because that will be in development over the first 2 weeks. And then, we will certainly have 1 or 2 live promotional events where we can get the word out. Again, start pumping ticket sales some more, introduce more characters, more story ideas, more menu ideas. And that's just the first month after launch. There are other things that we will be communicating on more of a transactional level for people that have signed up, and we can start thinking about logistics, parking, etc. But for the most part, we'll be priming the world, priming the characters, priming the story, as well as what type of project and event we are putting together. If Eric, if you want to jump back off of mute here, we can talk about the next part, which is kind of an idea that we're throwing out there, and maybe we'll definitely think about and would love your feedback on. So, Eric, I don't know if you want to take it away.
Sure. So basically, we're playing with the idea that we kind of need more feedback. One of our concern is to keep things balanced between something that is fun with the circus and also being productive. In order to do this, we're trying to figure out how we can achieve that balance in a way that would feel fulfilling for everybody. And part of the concerns that we're having is to make sure that everybody's enjoying their contribution, enjoying their experience with the circus, in order to maintain basically everybody's motivated and within this creative endeavor. And some of the ideas that we had around this was potentially having like quick surveys, maybe like every other week, with maybe just a simple question that would, give us an idea of how you feel about X, Y, Z, or what's going on, so that we can get a little bit of feedback from that, and potentially also uh, uh, like a monthly or maybe possibly like just a quarterly updates to get like maybe just like more direct feedback on what you guys are thinking about the process itself. I mean, of course, when it comes to progress, that's it's usually something that we can assess pretty easily. How we feel about these things, but when it comes to the actual the process itself, that's when it gets a little difficult. Um, so yeah, I mean, basically, this is kind of an open question. It's a little bit about, okay, what do you guys think about this? Is basically touching base with like a little survey every 2 weeks. Is it something that is a little too much, or is it something that would feel comfortable? Um, and having a little bit of feedback on our way, because we really need to have an idea of how everybody's feeling about this, so that we can adjust in the future on how we're approaching things. Um, Part of the goal behind this is basically to adjust our approach so that it can really become like everybody's baby. We want to make sure that everybody feels like a sense of ownership to what we're doing, and nobody feels left behind. Nobody feels left out of this. And it's not an easy thing to accomplish, because I mean, obviously in production, not all hands are on deck at all times. There are parts of the production that requires certain specialties to be more active, while others, well, they kind of are going to be needed in the part that's going to be further down in the production process. And our concern is to have people basically, when they are in a moment where they're not required to be active, or not necessarily in a position where they can be active, we don't want people to lose interest. Um, but to be honest, we don't necessarily know, what would be the best approach to maintain that motivation, maintain that spark into everybody. So definitely having feedback from you guys, having like basically ideas, would help us basically to adjust a little bit. Um, and part of this too is to maintain that motivation of thriving and aiming for excellence. Uh, we have been experiencing some difficulties from time to time, where maybe some people were telling us, we're telling to others, oh yeah, I'll take up on this responsibility, and sometimes it would not necessarily happen as specified. It would not what actually not being fulfilled, and it's not so much that you know we want us to be hard. I mean, everybody's got a life. I mean, I think we all get this. We all have constraints. We all have like other commitments that we need to fulfill. But as one thing's for sure, I mean, yeah, if have a break of communications, and there's something that is expected to be done because somebody said yes, I'll do it, and they end up not doing it. Well, down the road, when these things fall through, I mean, it can jeopardize basically. Getting to our objectives. So, so I mean, I think part of solving the solution, I think, is to encourage everybody to just be straightforward about, what you can and cannot do, and if you thought at one point you could do something, and something happened and it actually changed your situation. I mean, that's definitely something is understandable. The part that makes it difficult and extremely challenging is when that's not communicated. I don't think anybody is going to be frowned upon if something comes up and you can't do something. But the fact that something is expected by somebody, if that doesn't happen, then it doesn't leave much space for addressing that situation, and then it can become a problem that becomes bigger. So anyway, I mean, I'm throwing a lot of ideas here. I know I'm a little bit all over the
Well,
place.
just to jump in and add my 2 cents, I think the big picture concepts that we're trying to solve for are how do we balance how do we find an appropriate balance with regards to how much any individual is contributing, and how much for every individual the balance between their work and their life and their playtime and all of that is maintained appropriately. but also how do we make sure that there is open and honest communication so that when something does come up, good or bad, that the right people know and the appropriate expectations are updated so that we can step in and make sure that that ball doesn't drop, that we keep it in the air even if it's a different juggler. So this was one idea for how we could potentially solve for that. Uh, you know, let us know what you think. This is an open conversation and will be an ongoing conversation because we're very much interested in understanding how we can keep people inspired and keep people feeling invested and and keep the balance appropriate between all the different projects that we're all working on. So in terms of where we go from here, uh, please, folks, if you, we'd love to feature you on the website. You're a big part of this project. If you're on this call, it means you care, and we care about you. So send us a pic and a couple of sentences so that we can add you to the creator section. Um, we're locking in venue and logistics around that, licensing, permitting, blah blah blah, all of the fun stuff around locking in a venue. Who's going to pay for the toilets, etc., etc. Uh, then shortly after that, the website and all of the marketing push around that will be coming. And sort of in parallel, team leads will be working on sketches and proposals and budgets so that by mid-February, ideally, we will lock in the vision and the budget for what each of the teams will create, and that'll give us a good 5-6 weeks of creation time, whether that's rehearsals or sewing or building or whatever else each team is working on. So we're planning, we're being diligent, we're thinking ahead, and we're making progress. It's encouraging to see the progress we're making, and very much looking forward to hosting our first break-even event. There's a questions Q&A widget of sorts in this Google Hangout. So if there are any questions, I'd like to open it up now for folks, whether you can speak or whether you're currently a viewer. You can definitely ask questions. Otherwise, as people are typing up those questions, of course, everyone has my phone number, my email address, Eric's phone number and email address. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, considerations about any of the stuff that we talked about on this call or anything else, truly, Cirko or otherwise, please give us a call, send us an email. We are very responsive, although busy, and we definitely want to hear from you. So we're working on it. We're making solid progress, and in a couple weeks' time, there will be a lot more to show the outside world for what we've been doing over the last 3, 4, 5 months. So I'll give it. I haven't seen any questions come in. I saw Jessica and Merritt ask a question earlier in the call as they were coming in, but I know both of you texted me separately. So Merritt, here, I can select this question. Merritt was asking, I collected bios from folks a little while ago. Can we reuse those and the photos, or do the bios photos need to be different in some way? My reaction to that is that's a good call. Definitely no need to duplicate effort. However, I know me personally, I wrote mine with the perspective of keeping it internal and made it a little more playful and tongue-in-cheek than I may necessarily do for the outside world. So I know me personally, I would like to give a different picture probably and a different couple of different lines. So I'm sure some people will feel like what they've already given is their standard thing, and that's fine for those people. For me, I'll be wanting something different. And not everybody that was comfortable sharing their bios internally will be comfortable or want to be featured as a creator for Circo Telescopico. And so, if people don't want the extra benefit of that, then I don't mind, and they shouldn't be featured. I think if there are any other questions, please submit them now. But otherwise, I'll be sending out a follow-up email with just quick, brief clip notes from this call for everyone who couldn't make it. And if there are any folks that are interested, they can read that. Otherwise, our progress is clear, and we've still got a lot to do to make this a successful show. But I'm pretty excited about it. Jessica here. Jessica's asking, can Merit recirculate what has been submitted so far so it can be approved or not? Absolutely. I think probably actually Tara would be a better person to recirculate that. And I think, Tara, if you don't have that, then you can connect with Merit. Otherwise, I know it's in Asana. So yeah, we'll send that around, Jessica. We'll send it. There's a cute little Google presentation that Merit put together. So yeah, we'll definitely send that out. Tara will send that out, and folks can see and give thumbs up or thumbs down. Merit was asking, when does week 1 start in the marketing timeline? I was starting that at when the website launches, so that everything is kind of pegged against having a website for us to point to for folks to both explore and ultimately convert into either a newsletter sign up or a ticket sale for the show. So that's when week 1 starts in the timeline. And I expect approximately two months, 8 weeks between when it comes online and we have the show.
Who will do the casting?
The director of the show ultimately will have the final say on that. As of right now, Eric was planning on taking lead for directing that show. I don't mean to throw him under the bus. That's at least what we talked about to date. Surprise! Eric will be the director. Are you surprised, Eric? No, just kidding. No, that's what we talked about. So Eric will be the director, and he will have the ultimate say on that on the casting calls. Any other? Thank you for chiming in, folks. Are there any other thoughts, questions before we wrap it up?
Actually, yes. Did you figure out what the curiosities are and what they're doing, like which acts they are exactly?
We have not yet. That's a great question. No, we have not yet distilled which acts the curiosity will be for this show, and part of that will be dictated by the practical realities of the venue that we ultimately select, whether or not aerial rigging is possible, whether or not fire permits are possible, kind of things like those types of considerations. So that's why the venue getting locked in and contracted we think is kind of one of the consideration points before deciding the acts. But within the next week, as the venue gets confirmed, so too will the acts be locked in and decided, at least potentials for what it could be based on casting call.
Okay. Thank you.
I was really hoping to end by 8:30, and I'm extremely happy to see that it is 8:29. I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to jump on the call and for bearing with us as we mixed up the date, bearing with me as I mixed up the dates. But in any case, we've made a lot of progress, and there's still a lot to be done, but we've made a lot of progress, and I'm really looking forward to and excited for starting to see this come to life and not just be words on paper and PowerPoint presentations and blah, 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 but actually be a sweet freaking show that we can show to our friends and family and share with them and make that experience that we've been working so hard to create. So on our path, and thanks for your time, and more information to come soon. Bios, send your bios, or approve what's been there. Bye.
Yay! Bye, everybody.